Hey everyone, welcome to TechBrick YouTube channel. This is Mallikarjun. Today we are going to discuss about a continuation part of functions in Golang. So mainly we are going to focus on what is variadic functions and few of the exceptional cases with respect to variadic functions. But also we are going to discuss about what is anonymous functions and how to make use of it in Golang. And also how can we pass a function as an argument or a parameter to another function. So let's get started. Now let's try to understand a variadic functions. So let's say we have a one variable v1 which is of type int, and we will have a one function. So some function, let's say like variadic function itself, variadic fun, and which is going to take uh, v1 as an input and some items like 2 comma 3. Okay, now let's try to define this. So here if you see, it is having v1 and i2. So instead of these two, what we will do here, we will have like args triple dot then integer. So nothing but by making this one, like we have made this function as a variadic function. So by specifying this one, nothing but which can take like a, any number of arguments, I mean to say. So here we are passing 2 and 3. So the first parameter, that is v1, which is like a mandatory argument, and this is like a it is not a mandatory. I mean, even if you don't send, I think it should work. Even if you are not sending, it should work. So if we call the same one again, let's say like something like 2 comma 3, then also it should work. And if we call with again like 2 3 comma 4, then also it should work. Now here what we will do here, simply we will have like something like for key, nothing but key comma in, key will be index. So this what exactly it does is it is going to have these items in the form of slice. So in the form of range, then arcs. So here what we will do here, let's have let's say some, we will simply try to print println of v1 into value, sorry, value. Okay, cool. So in this case anyway, it's not going to print anything. So here the default case we can have, uh, here we will have simply what we can do here, fmt dot println of v1, here if args is equal to nil, let's say. So we'll simply try to print this. So let's see what exactly it is gonna give. Go run main.go. So if you observe, it's giving everything 0 0. The reason is because v1 we have not initialized with anything. That's the reason. Let's take it as 2 now, and let's try to rerun the program again. So if you observe, so in first case it is actually executing this particular piece of code, and then in the second case 2 into 2 4, then 3 into 2 6, so 4 6, perfect. In second one 4 6 8, so that is also printing as expected. So this is how a variadic functions works. But now we will try to understand one of the exceptional cases with respect to variadic functions. So here let's say like one more mandatory parameter, I want to pass it, so that we will consider it as a v2, and here we will have like v2 is equal to some 4. So and if I want to send v2 here, something like this, and here as well, let's pass it. And if we take in this v2, it won't work. So even if you have type, right, so it's not going to work because, and if you see it's showing error, not enough arguments to call variady function. The reason is because whenever we are passing arguments like n number of arguments or variadic arguments, right, then this argument should be always at the end. Otherwise go compiler is not going to identify which is like a variadic function, variadic argument, and which is are like a mandatory arguments. So thereby it's not going to identify. So in order to fix this, what we can do is, so we should always have this one at last, then only it will work. So this is one of the exception. This particular thing should be always at the end. So this is one. And we have like fmt.println as well, right? So if you have fmt.println, this is also one of the variadic function. So even like here we are not passing any argument. So here let's say like if you pass like something 2, it should work. If you pass like fmt.println of 2 comma 3, it should work. So this is also one of the classic example for variadic function. And even like we have few of the variadic functions which takes like mandatory arguments as well as like non-mandatory arguments. Nothing but we have a append, right? So append which takes a mandatory argument as a slice, so something like this. And here what we can have, like here we can have like some item like 2, 3, 4, any number of arguments we can pass it. So here as well, if we simply, we need to take some like var b, something like this. Okay, so here b, it's showing error. This is because of like unused, that we can ignore for now. But if you observe, like this append is also one of the variadic function which is having one of the mandatory like argument, that is like a slice, and again the second argument is like again a not a mandatory one, so which can have like n number of arguments in it. So yeah, this is with respect to variadic function. Now let's try to understand how can we pass a function as an argument to another function. So let's have it like this. So we will take one type, let's say like a type function type, and we will have a function which takes integer as an parameter and integer as a, sorry, yeah, so integer as a parameter, and it is going to return integer. So we have taken fun type. And what we will do, let's comment this part for now, even this. So we will have a function f1 which is of type f1 of int, and then int, what exactly it is going to do. So it is going to return something. Let's take like a 3 into a, which is like we call it as a function 1. Let's name it as function 1. And similarly what we can do, function 2, and here we will have 3 plus a. Cool. So now we will try to define like one more function. So before that we'll try to understand this one. So if you see here, this is similar like giving something like function fun1, which is going to take a as an input, I mean parameter, and which is going to return. So whatever we wrote, this is everything is same as whatever we are trying to do it here. So instead of taking the function separate, we are actually writing a function within another function, that is main. Okay, so we will discuss this again. So now we will have a one more function. Let's take that function as function in function as argument. Let's take like that. And here we will pass two things. Okay, so here we will pass like one of the variable. Okay, we will see what we are gonna pass. So first, like we will say like function 1, we will pass it, and we no need to pass like this. We can simply pass function 1, and then we will pass some item, let's say 4, and again the same thing we will call function as argument by passing other function, that is function 2. Now we need to define this function, right? So let's do it now quickly. So here function we can have either this way, or we can directly specify fun type as well, I mean the one which we have. So here we have a type which is a function, and that is taking parameter as an integer and returning integer. So now we have this. So here again, what we can do here, we can have a function which is going to return integer, right? So what we can do here, we can have return function nothing but f1 2 of whatever the I we have. Instead of I, what we can take it as, yeah, let it be I for now. And here, which is going to return again function, right? So here as well we can have like a fun type. This should work. Or instead of taking like this, we can simply take like function which takes integer and returns integer. So is it going to work? Okay, no, my bad. It should be just integer. Yes, because here it is going to return just integer, right? So that's the reason. Cool. So now we have function. So instead of this one, we can simply take it as like this. So now what exactly it does? So if you see here we have a function. Here also we have a function and we are passing function as an argument to this function, and we are taking one more like a parameter, I would say. Then what we are doing, so this function which is going to take input as integer, right? So I mean function 1 and function 2. So those are taking integer as an input, and that integer we are passing, that is I. And what exactly it is going to return? It is going to return integer, and that is what exactly we are returning, that is integer. So fine, right? So now we will try to run this one and see like what exactly it does. So go run main.go. Okay, why it's not printing? Yeah, because we need to print this. That's the reason. fmt.println of, because we are returning but nowhere we are printing it. That's the reason. fmt.println of. Cool. Let's see. Yep, it is returning like 12 and 7, nothing but 4 into 3 is 12, 4 plus 3 7. So it's working as expected. Now instead of passing fun type, right, we can directly pass fun of int of int. This should also work. Sorry, it should be funs. So this should also work. So here, even if we comment this part, right, so it should work. Let's see. So yeah, it is working as expected. So nothing but we are passing a function as an argument and we are making use of it. So this is fine. Now what we can do here, we can even pass something like this. I mean, the way we used to take parameters, right? A similar way we can take it here. So that should also work and it's not going to give any problem. So because here we are not passing, so let's say like we have a one function, we are passing it and which is taking multiple arguments, but how are we going to differentiate the order of arguments, right? So that is the reason. Let's say like we have some like a server configuration, like some IP, some port number, and few of the timeout and all we are passing. So during that time, like we need to specify like server, then like a port, int. So all of these we need to specify. So it's always a good practice to specify the argument name. Thereby it will be like good to understand when others are going to read our code. So this is with respect to how can we pass like a function as an argument to another function. Cool. Now let's try to understand the immediate invoked functions or anonymous functions. So we have a function funds one, right? So we will try to remove the left side and we will try to invoke this. So we will, for now we'll try to comment this part. Okay, so now this is, we have not named anything to this function, so this function we call it as a anonymous function, and a function without any name. And here we are invoking, so we need to, it accepts one argument, so let's pass something like 4. And here we are invoking, so that's the reason we call this function as a immediate invoked function. So here like instead of returning we can add something like let's say like product is equal to something like 5 into a and here we can print the we can simply print it if we really want to print. So then this is something like a piece of code. It is almost similar like how we write a function like outside, just that like sometime we no need to reuse any piece of code. Then we can have like these kind of a function like a immediately invoked function or anonymous functions. And these are like something like a functions within a function. If you see here, this is main itself is a function, and here we are like again invoking another function. So instead of writing this function outside, so this is one thing. And what is the advantage of using anonymous function? And again, it depends on use cases to use case. You need to choose whether to go for immediately invoked functions or to have a function separately so that you can reuse the function. So let's understand like one of the helpful usage. So let's say like we have a var, let's say like xyz, and which is of type integer. And instead of here like again you are going to multiply with xyz. Okay, so here this is fine, but let's consider like instead of like writing immediate invoke function or anonymous functions inside this main function, if we go with the another way, like where we write a function, let's say like something xyz only, xyz zz, then which takes parameter as this a, and also we need to pass that xyz, right? So let's consider that as a y, an integer, and which is going to return integer again, and return like something like 5 into a into y, right? So here what exactly we are doing, we are passing a parameter, but here we are not, we don't need to pass it. I mean to say that here we will be ended up by saving the memory allocation or copy of a variable passing to this one, because here again it is going to create a memory for this y. But here for this particular inline function, this xyz acts as a global variable, and so here we are easily able to access it. But if you want to call this xyz function, then you need to pass this xyz integer to that respective function. So that is one advantage of using like a inline function or anonymous function. Cool. So far we have learned what is anonymous functions, how can we pass a function as an argument or a parameter to another function. So if you guys have any doubt, please comment it out. I would love to answer all of your queries. Also, if you guys like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and also hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Thank you.